Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, Adam, Caplan. An emergency inside the Birds. The sirens are going. The Eagles have made, Adam, one of the most profound moves in franchise history. I don't think that is an understatement. They have agreed to a contract extension with Zack Baun, their linebacker. Reported 3 years, $51 million. That's an average annual for those who don't do math like me. That's $17 million a year. We'll see what the structure is like when it comes out. But Adam, it's a watershed moment because it's the Eagles and it's a linebacker, and they clearly made it a number one priority doing this before he sets foot in free agency.
Yeah, so their goal was to get it done by 12 p.m. Eastern on Monday because there are other teams involved, as they understand it. But the key to this thing, so you had said to me on last show, you said to me, you seem pretty confident they're going to resign him. And what I said was yes, but as long as he did not insist on Roquan Smith's contract, that is a different story. But you could not justify giving him that deal based on one great year. Now, 2 great years, yes, but not one. But he wasn't, so that got this thing rolling, and they were able to get this done. So, it's just to be clear, because people in social media they love to ask these questions: was this a priority? Getting their key free agents back over a priority. It's just you have to look at the way the cap is structured and cash spending is done. It's done in 3-year increments. You look at your cash spend over 3 years. What's coming down the pike? Jalen Carter after this coming season. Nolan Smith after this coming season. Carter, as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, is a lock to get that done. With Nolan Smith, if he plays well again, I'm sure they'll look to get him extended. Going back 25 years or more, the way the Eagles do business, guys they know that they got right, they get it done. So the problem is, man, you can't re-sign everybody. It's so over time. You have a cash budget. You let the agent go. Here's where we can go. Howie's been very, very disciplined in recent years. Sometimes you just have to walk away. So if a couple of these guys get loose, namely Milt Williams and Josh Sweat, we've been talking about this for a while. It's not that they don't want him back. They have a number in mind. If the agent gets what they're looking for, which is more than the Eagles want to spend, they walk. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, I applaud Zack Baun and his agents. They made this work with the Eagles. And you're right, he didn't get Roquan Smith money, but $17 million a year average is top 5 inside linebacker money. So it's not necessarily something you would say is a team-friendly contract either. I mean, this is a good contract for a guy who has had really just one incredible year of success. So it shows the Eagles breaking protocol a little bit. Is their core philosophy still the same? Sure. But one thing that you and I both mentioned within the last few weeks, we had caught word that Howie was sort of second guessing himself in retrospect on letting TJ Edwards walk out the door, not making him an offer. We saw the issues they had at linebacker the year after they go to the Super Bowl with TJ, and they're rotating guys like Nick Morrow and Zach Cunningham, and they fixed it up very quickly. They obviously brought in a new coordinator and a new coaching staff, and all that plays into a role. But it is sort of an unprecedented story for a guy, almost Kurt Warner-ish, just at the linebacker position, for a guy to just overnight become as good as Zack Baun became. And Adam, we talked about this a lot with Greg Cosell and throughout the year. It's not like he was the beneficiary of things around him. He exhibited instincts, key and diagnose awareness, lateral movement, athleticism, natural things that, guys who've been playing linebacker their whole life don't exhibit. He showed that in 1 year, and that makes him an unbelievable story.
You can't make it up. What you just said is the epitome of something you could never see. You and I were at training camp. Andrew DiCecco. I remember talking to Andrew about this. Oh, this is a nice story. He's mentally pretty aware. Baun, he's not making many mistakes. Doesn't make the same mistake twice. Nice story. Looks like he's going to start. I have no idea what to expect. I don't know if the Eagles had any idea what to expect. The early returns were good. Bobby King doing a great job coaching him to the inside backers coach. But to be the best player at your position when you've never played before and do it in one season is something that I've never seen before in my career. This is 27 years I've covered this business. Maybe you have something you can remember covering the league. I have no idea. I just can't imagine seeing anything like this. You're Kurt Warner. Now, Kurt, of course, played quarterback his whole life. Zack Baun was an edge rusher coming out of Wisconsin, and he played a little strong side linebacker, but that's not inside. Okay, there's a difference. And he's more of an edge rusher than a strong side linebacker for New Orleans. But to play inside backer, which he'd never played before, become the best player at his position in the National Football League is unheard of. It's basically next to impossible. And he did it.
Yeah, and that's why the Eagles, did what they did. And I think Eagles fans can be you feel pretty good about next year because you got pretty much most 80% of your defense coming back. Sure, we'll have to see what they do at outside corner. Sure, Josh Sweat and Milton Williams probably not likely. We'll see. We'll see what happens with them, but may not return. But you've got young guys like Jalen Hunt and Nolan Smith. And to your point, I'm really interested to see the structure of this deal. It's only 3 years. So there's either probably a ton of dummy years associated with it to spread the money out, or maybe Howie, like he did with Nigel Bradham, got a lot of that money out early on because he knows that there's going to be guys like Carter, Nolan Smith, Jalen Hunt, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell that he's going to have to deal with, not next year, but the year after and the year after that.
Yeah, what you just said was actually, I'm looking at my notes here. That's actually what I want to talk about. So, folks, they've been trying to get Milton Williams done for I don't know how long. They've wanted him back. If he walks, it's on what Geoff just said. Carter, after this coming season, almost certain they'll look to extend as long as he plays well, which we all think he will, right? Nolan Smith had a breakout season coming out of nowhere. Another great story, right? Nobody saw this happening, particularly in training camp. You didn't say anything like that. What would wind up happening starting about week 5 or 6. So Carter, Smith, Baun. Oh, and then on your point, in 2 years, Mitchell and DeJean. The Eagles' goal is not to be the highest paid defense in NFL history. They like to have the best, but they're not trying to be the highest paid defense in NFL history. No one should aspire to have that. When you own a business, that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to put the best product on the field, do it in a reasonable fashion. It's just you can't pay everybody. So, again, it's not about priority. It's GMs will tell you and personnel people, till you believe you can resign. Baun and his agents and Howie and everyone was involved in it. They work obviously very well together. This came together rather quickly. They kind of knew what was going to happen at the combine, and he never insisted on Roquan Smith money. That's what I said to you on our previous show. That was the only thing that could hold it up. It didn't, and they got that done. So now let's look at their front seven right now. So right now under contract, you've got Carter. Ojomo will replace Williams if Williams walks. Nolan Smith will be a starting edge rusher. Right now, Jalen Hunt would be. They're not going to say that's going to happen, but right now he's the running for it. That could change clearly before the season in the draft or free agency or via trade. Baun is one of their starting inside backers. We don't know about Dean for next season. It's a matter of whether he could play and could be serviceable in the second half of the season. But right now, it could be Trot Jr. and Baun. But we know Baun is going to be there. So right now, there's going to be some changes. There'll be some. How many, we don't know yet. But the big one, as you mentioned, they got Baun in. They haven't given up hope about Milton Williams. It's going to be very difficult because the secret was out about a year ago how good this kid is. He is a tremendous football player, does everything the right way, been a great story development. Yet another story. One more thing I do want to add here is before Sirianni took over his staff, we had lamented how poor of a job the Doug Peterson staff did late in Doug's career with the Eagles of developing their players. I'm not saying that the roster was very good. It wasn't. But you got to develop the players you're given. And they did such a poor job. And you look at the 180 that this thing has done here, everyone's getting developed, which is a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some causation in what you just said. The roster wasn't very good, but maybe it wasn't very good because the coaching staff didn't do a good job of developing the talent as well. The hierarchy here is pretty interesting. As you mentioned, you have Baun. Nakobe Dean will be coming back from an injury. They do have a lot of respect and admiration for the rookie Jeremiah Trotter, who goes into year 2 next year. So we'll see about his playing time. They've been developing Ben Van Sumeren, who's also coming off an injury. I'm curious to see how the decision to give Baun the money that they gave him impacts their ability to bring back a guy like Oren Burks, because the Eagles, like most teams, have allocation. They have money that they're willing to allocate, not just to just players, right, but positionally. So that's why I'm also curious to see how the contract is structured. You can bring back Oren Burks on a 1 year if you can get him for a 1 year. If you're not, maybe if a ton of that Baun money isn't in year one either. So we have to see how it all works out. You would like to see them have that kind of veteran insurance, but there's probably going to be a lot of veterans on the market as well that maybe might not be as expensive. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a buyer's market at inside backer. There are plenty of guys out there. Oh, by the way, this is hilarious, and it's just the way things worked out. Bryce Huff's deal was 3 years and $51.2 million. 34 million fully guaranteed at signing. I believe that's what ESPN reported for Zack Baun. 34 million fully guaranteed at signing. They play two different positions. Huff's is an edge rusher, and Baun's an inside backer. It's just comical that it just came down to that. Like an edge rusher is making as much as an inside backer, vice versa. It's really the inside backer making as much as an edge rusher, which is not often. But Huff was a unrestricted free agent. So was Baun. So we'll see what happens with Bryce Huff. That's going to be a fascinating situation because Vic Fangio was not a fan, but this is a guy getting back to Baun here. They've got back. This is a big deal for them to get him back. He's a guy who's been a great high character guy. Again, the secret sauce of this roster, in addition to having a great roster, is the character of this football team. You're keeping another high character guy on the team. That's very important.
100%. Maybe they'll move Bryce Huff to inside linebacker. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. It might work. Everything else, everything happens with this team. If you look at last season, I don't know if they got something other than him, because it's the wrong scheme for him. He's a hand in the dirt edge rusher. Clearly it's not going to work based on what we saw. But even again, Nolan Smith, who got off to that really bad start, he was their fourth edge rusher. And then he came on, and then Jay looks on late in the season. They're all getting developed, folks. The Eagles have a really good thing going. Because for folks who are new to our show, it was a rough going for us when we were doing the show in 19 and 20. Once this regression, the fallout of Peterson and Wentz and everything, all the nonsense, and if people were saying we were too negative, we were just being honest. It was terrible. It was a bad roster. Everything was bad. The coaching was not very good. And you look at the 180 this organization, football operations, has done. Howie's evaluation has been of the last 4 years now has been probably the best in the National Football League. And he got it done again. And one thing about his contract with Baun I like is that we haven't seen the structure yet. They did. I thought this was a very fair deal. It's not like they overpaid. Overpaying was Roquan Smith's deal. Like that's a non-starter. You're not doing it after 1 year. That's not smart business. To give a guy the best deal at his position of football after 1 year, you're not doing that.
All right.
And that they kind of met in the middle. I thought they were very fair. And look, Zack is. By the way, Zack could be an edge rusher if you need him to. We saw him line up on the edge a little bit. He does turn 29 in December. So you never know. After 2 years, if the structure shows there's no guaranteed money in year 3, you never know. They could be doing it again.
That's absolutely correct. All right. Well, you know what? Everybody's got to continue to listen. Andrew DiCecco did his own podcast, DiCecco Daily, on the growth that he saw from Zack Baun starting in OTAs to training camp to the season. Everybody should check that out. And of course, Adam and I have been doing a little a series on where the Eagles might be bargain shopping on both defense and offense, and that will be out on it'll start Thursday. It'll continue through Friday, and including also we have our analytics series that looks at contract extensions. The one for Baun and Becton already came out with Sam Finkel, and the part 2 will be out soon as well. So just make sure you're following Inside the Birds on your podcast platform, your YouTube channel, website, all of that as we continue to grind out the content as we get closer to free agency. That's going to do it for this special emergency edition of Inside the Birds on the Zack Baun contract extension. For Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Thanks for listening.